Hey, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Tech Conversations. Firstly, if you haven't already, make sure to check out LuxAlgo. LuxAlgo is the #1 agent to help you find strategies, powered by some of the best trading indicators and used by over 15,000 traders, including myself. And I'll actually show you one of their premium indicators later on in today's video. But right now, if you sign up to LuxAlgo by using my link in the description below, you can get up to 20% off their premium indicators. And keep in mind, you can also get 30 days risk free. So why not try them out? So go ahead and check out LuxAlgo. I'll put a link to them in the description below. Also, make sure to check out the Discord, completely free to join. I'll put a link to it in the description below as well. We just hit over 8,000 members. So thank you to everyone that's joined our Discord. Now let's get right into today's video. So, earnings season continues this week. We have some pretty big companies announcing earnings this week as well. We talked about Palantir on Friday, so go ahead and check out that video. Today, I want to talk about AMD. So, firstly, when does AMD have earnings? So, let's take a look here at the most anticipated earnings for next week. Now, where can we find that? We can find that in our Discord. So if you go back to the Discord here, notice in this first section, there is an earnings calendar channel. So let's go ahead and click on that channel. And here we can see the most anticipated earnings for the week beginning November 3rd. So again, we have some pretty big companies announcing earnings. Today, we want to talk about AMD. So where is AMD on this calendar? AMD is right here under Tuesday. So that means AMD will announce earnings on Tuesday. And as you can see, it's under the after close column. So that means that AMD will announce earnings on Tuesday after the market closes. So we're very close to earnings here for AMD. Now, the very first thing that I like to do is I like to find what the earnings implied move or earnings expected to move currently is. In other words, how much are investors expecting AMD stock to move for earnings as of right now? And remember, we find this by taking a look at how much the at the money straddle costs, and then we multiply that value by 0.85. And remember, an at the money straddle is an option strategy where we buy a call, we buy a put. They both have the same strike price and the same expiration date. But with the at the money straddle, we're specifically using the at the money call and the at the money put. So let's go into the options here for AMD. Let's take a look here at how much the at the money straddle currently costs. So here in the options, first of all, we want to make sure we select the appropriate expiration date for this. So it should be the first expiration date that comes after the earnings date. So that's going to be November 7th. So I'm going to leave that as it is. And then again, we want to go ahead and buy the at the money call and buy the at the money put. So here we are on calls. So let's go ahead and select the at the money call. So remember, the at the money call is going to be the call option whose strike price is as close to the current share price as possible. And we want to make sure we use the share price of the stock when the market last closed. So if we use that, the closest strike price would be the one at the 255 here. So this would be the at the money call. So let's go ahead and add this here. And then we want to also switch over to puts, and we want to select the at the money put. So again, the at the money put is going to be the put option whose strike price is as close to the current share price as possible. That should also be the one at 255. So we're going to go ahead and select this. So this is the at the money put. And as you can see, Robinhood recognizes this as a long straddle. More specifically, this is the at the money straddle. And so what we care about here is how much does this cost? So this costs $23.28. So we need to multiply that by 0.85. That gives us 1978. So as of right now, investors are expecting AMD share price to move up or down $19.78. And if we take that and divide by the current share price, we get a move of about up or down 7.7%. So investors as of right now are expecting AMD stock to move 7.7%. And remember, this is just an estimate, not a guarantee. Now let's see what has historically happened in the last couple of quarters. So let's go over to Market Chameleon here. And so if we take a look here under the earnings section in this implied moves and Ivy Crush section, notice this part right here, AMD post earnings movement. So here we can see a couple of things. So number one, when AMD will report earnings, so November 4th, 2025 after market close. And then take a look at this here. So the options market overestimated AMD stock earnings move 58% of the time in the last 12 quarters. The predicted move after earnings announcement was plus or minus 8.1% on average. We got plus or minus 7.7%. So very close to what it's been on average the last couple of quarters versus an average of the actual earnings move of 6.8%. So it tends to, at least in the last couple of quarters, tends to move a little bit less than what the implied move is. So let me know in the comment section below, how much do you think AMD will move for earnings and in which direction? Now, I want to quickly talk about trading options here. Again, I think trading options for earnings is very risky. There's still going to be people that buy calls or buy puts for earnings though. And if you're doing that, you should be very careful with something called IV Crush. So for this, I'm going to go over to Option Strat here. I'll put a link to Option Strat in the description below. So this is a really great options visualization tool. What that means is that it allows us to visualize an options trade before we enter it. And so let's say, again, you wanted to trade earnings for AMD. So we're on AMD. Let's say you wanted to buy some calls at the 260 strike, let's say 2 calls, expiring November 7th, and you're looking to hold through earnings, which again is on Tuesday here. You're looking to hold into, let's say, Wednesday morning here. So again, you can see here what your debit would be, your max loss, max profit, chance of profit, and break even. And then here we have our P&L chart. So let's say on Wednesday, when you wake up after earnings, let's say, let's just pretend AMD is up 4.2% to 267. And so according to Option Strat here, you should be up about $191. But again, what this does not show you is what might happen if IV Crush occurs. So again, generally, as we get closer to earnings, we tend to see IV go up on the options. And then right after earnings, we tend to see IV drop very quickly. And IV influences the price of an option. So let's take a look at what might happen if we see that IV crush. So luckily, there's this IV slider down here on the bottom right. So let's say IV goes from 82% to about 50% here. Take a look here where you think you might make $191. Take a look at what might happen here. So I'm going to slide this down to about 50% here. And so we take a look here, take a look at this. Instead of being up almost $200, you would actually be down almost $300. That is what IV Crush can do. And that's why a lot of the times when people buy calls and buy puts and hold through earnings, even though the price goes in the direction they wanted it to move, they end up losing money. So be very careful if you're trading options. Now let's go over to TradingView here. Let's take a look at the chart for AMD. So I'll put a link to TradingView in the description below. Really great options visualization tool. We're on AMD and we're looking at the weekly chart here. Now, like I mentioned earlier, let me quickly show you one of LuxAlgo's premium indicators. This is their signals and overlays indicator. So this indicator comes with confirmation and exit signals here. So confirmation signals aim to confirm any potential action that a trader might take, and it's more effective when used in confluence with other features. There are also exit signals, denoted by these X's you see here, which aim to help traders find areas to consider exiting a position based on a previous confirmation signal. We also have the smart trail, this blue and red line that you see there. So the smart trail can help us identify uptrends when price is above the smart trail or downtrends when price is below the smart trail. You can also use these shaded areas of the smart trail for potential areas of resistance or support. And then finally, we have these reversal zones. So this red and green shaded area there. So each zone is designed to help the user find potential tops and bottoms. So go ahead and check out LuxAlgo. I'll put a link to them in the description below. Now let's go ahead and remove this indicator here, and let's take a look at a couple of interesting things here. So firstly, what is the current trend for AMD? And I'm talking about the multi-year trend, not the short-term trend, the long-term trend. So if we go back here many years, and I'm really saying many years, like many, many years here. So I'm going to zoom out to something like this here. What has AMD been doing? AMD has been forming higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, and higher highs here. So over the long term, it has been in an uptrend. And we can connect some of these higher highs and higher lows to draw what are known as trend lines. So let's go ahead and draw some trend lines here. So I'm going to start here, and let's draw this trend line up here first. And so this trend line at the top has been acting as an area of resistance for many years. And so I'm going to draw something like that. And then let's draw the trend line at the bottom here. So something like that right here. So this trend line has been acting as an area of support for many years. So something like that. And then let me just extend this here. So something like that right there. We have our two trend lines. Again, this lower trend line has been acting as an area of support. Every time AMD gets to this trend line, it cannot break and it bounces back up. As you can see that it's done that multiple times over many years. And then this trend line at the top has been acting as an area of resistance. Every time we get to it, it just cannot break through and it pulls back. And we're actually very close here to it. I think we almost touched it and pulled back here, as you can see. Now we have two trend lines, they're sloping upwards and they are diverging. This is a potential rising, broadening wedge chart pattern. And what we are eventually looking for here is a breakout out of the wedge here. However, if there is no breakout, as we've seen multiple times now with AMD, history could repeat. If we can't break out of this chart pattern here, again, like in the past, we've pulled back all the way down here. So keep an eye out with this chart pattern. It's very important. Now let's switch over to the log chart here. So let's remove these two drawings. Let me actually first switch to the monthly chart here as well. And I'm going to switch over to the log chart here. So remember, the log chart provides a more accurate representation of price trends and movements, especially for assets with a significant price change like AMD here. So we have a trend line. We have two trend lines here that are very important here. So let's first draw a trend line that's been acting as an area of support since 2015. So something like that right there. So we have multiple touches. We have multiple candles right here that touched it. And then we also touched it right here. This was back in April. And now we also have a trend line that has been acting as an area of resistance since 1983. This one's really important here. So we're going to start right here, and I'm going to draw something like that right there. So notice we have multiple touches here, 1983, 1984, even 1985. Touch here, 2000, dot-com bubble, here, and then we're actually right there right now. So we're actually getting very close to breaking this trend line that's been there since 1983, 42 years, right? That would be pretty exciting to see for AMD bulls if that happens. Now, if we can't break out of here, we could potentially pull back to, again, this trend line that's been there since, again, 2015. And that would actually be a pretty big drop. We're talking, 120, 130 potentially there. So let me know what you guys think AMD will do for earnings. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Check out the Discord, link to that in the description below. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think. Now we'll see you guys next time.